Good morning, everybody, and Papa here. I am extremely excited and thrilled to be back with you. And we have an amazing guest in the house, so you will get to hear from him, and I will introduce him. But I just wanted to give you a couple of updates to let you know. You probably haven't seen my face for the last few months. Amadou was running the ALG weekly show, and Amadou had an amazing opportunity to go work for Colorado Succeed, and we are extremely happy and excited for him, and he will be representing ALG at a different capacity with another organization, which is great. And what it does, it gives opportunity for other people to learn and grow and try to fill up his shoes. One of those people will be me. I am back to learning on how to do this weekly show, but we'll be transitioning and having Miss Kati Traore, the ALG office admin, and just joined the team. I can tell you that she's better looking than Amadou, for sure, and she's better looking than me, so she will be also my co-host. Kati, thank you so much for joining us this morning. So any word of welcoming for our followers this morning?
Yes, hello everyone. I know you guys saw me last week for the first time as a trial, and I enjoyed it so much I decided to come back. And yes, Papa's here again, but I'm pretty sure I'll be taking his position away from him soon. So yeah.
So in another word, I'll be fire live. So she's trying to be nice about it. But look, I expect it. I'll be fired. And we want to thank you for some of the people we have in the house. Max Sar, a fan of ALG, member of the African Leadership Group, joining us also. So we have Professor Majamar and Usman Bar. They are the technician facilitating this show to go live. But we have an amazing guest, and honestly, I am extremely excited to have a brother, a mentor, somebody that has done so much in the community, and also the wisdom around this person is just amazing. We are here today to celebrate Black History Month, and I couldn't think of any better person than Dr. Malcolm to join us just to engage in this conversation. And as you know, his name is Dr. H. Malcolm Newton, and we'll ask him a little bit background about his name. He's the president of Pan-African Business Association. Think about the name a little bit, Pan-African Business Association, and we talk about Black History Month. Co-founder of African Chamber of Commerce. As you can see, all his involvement has been around African community, Black people, CEO of Urban Ticken Center, space for racial healing and entrepreneurship. The list goes on and on and on. Harvard University, Oxford University. We have wisdom here with us. Dr. H. Malcolm, truly an honor and a pleasure. Welcome.
Thank you. Thank you for having me. It is also an honor and a privilege for me to be here.
Thank you. Thank you. So let's dive deep into the conversation, because as you know, we are celebrating Black History Month. But as far as I'm concerned, every month is Black History Month. Every month we have to celebrate.
Yes.
Because for me, we are unique and amazing people. 1 month it's not sufficient, it's not enough to celebrate everything that we have done and everything that we are about.
That's right.
But could you give a little bit of background to our viewers what Black History Month is about? Why Black History Month? When did it start? What is all the things that's evolved in this amazing month where we celebrate our history?
Well, thank you for having me on the show. I appreciate being here. And first, I want to say to you, thank you, Papa, for all the work that you've been doing in the community. You've been doing magnificent work.
Thank you, thank you.
And I just want to make sure that that is recognized, and that as African Americans, we want to be able to elevate the work that you do.
Thank you.
Because the work that you do is so important of bringing people together, especially people of African descent.
Thank you.
Thank you for your work.
You're welcome. Thank you.
The history of what we call Black history was started by a historian by the name of Carter G. Woodson. Carter G. Woodson was an educator. In fact, W.E.B. Du Bois was not the only African American, or not the first African American to graduate from Harvard. We think that he was, but he wasn't. Carter G. Woodson was also one of the first Black people in America to graduate with a PhD from Harvard University. And he felt like Black people were not being recognized for their contribution that they've made to the American planet. Planet.
Yes.
Not just the American country, but the American planet. And so he implemented what we call Black History Week.
Okay.
But at that time, it wasn't Black History Week, it was Negro Week. Negro Life and History Week. That's what it was called. And that was to say that not to bring attention to Black people was to say the opposite, that we were not being recognized. Black people in America who are of African descent made hundreds of contributions to America, but it was not recognized. And so when folks say, well, why did I have a Black History Week? And why don't we have a White History Week? Or that's the way the conversation goes now. And we say the reason why there's a Black History Month or week is because the contributions that African Americans made was not being recognized. That's the importance of it. So now we can see the contributions of what our folks have made to this country. And I mean from street lights to a hairbrush to a toothbrush to an ironing board, you know. So there's a lot of inventors and first patents right here.
Yeah.
It all wasn't just white folks. Black folks helped to build this country.
Thank you so much for that education. And I thought it was very important for us to start with that. Just one follow-up question on that. Because some people have a tendency when they hear Black History Month, they think it's only tied to the Black community, the Black living in the United States. Could you just maybe shed a light on the fact that the Black diaspora, what involvement could they have or should they have, or what role did they play all the way to celebrating Black History Month?
Interesting question. I could say I don't know, but I won't go there. I'll give it a try. You know, Pan-Africanism, that's what we're talking about.
Yes.
When you talk about the globe of Black folks, and especially in Africa, we're talking about Pan-Africanism. Pan-Africanism was began in 1945 with a gentleman by the name of H. Sylvester Williams. And he felt as though Pan-African was a call for unity, to bring African people together throughout the diaspora. It began in Manchester, UK, the United Kingdom, where they had their first meeting, and there were many, many meetings after that. That involved Marcus Garvey, Sylvester Williams, W.E. Du Bois, and just meetings on trying to get African people in the diaspora to work together and to get the countries to be in unity. So to me, that is part of the global Black history that we never even think of. And one of the things that happened throughout education, when Black folks got their PhDs in America, we focused more, this was the issue. Black scholars focused more on Africa than they did on their own social context and environment here in North America because of Pan-African movement.
Well, if you're just tuning to join us, you are joining us for the African Leadership Group Weekly Show, where we are here today to celebrate Black History Month. And we have the blessing, that's what I call, to have Dr. H. Malcolm Newton to join us here. And it's a lecture, the knowledge and the wisdom on this man, and to grace us with his presence and to share his wisdom with us is so amazing. So stay tuned, more information to come. I want to turn it to my co-host here, Miss Kathy Traore. She has an amazing question. So Kathy, go ahead.
Yes, so as a Black woman myself, I'm very interested in knowing what has been the role of the Black woman through Black history, and how or are they celebrated during Black History Month?
Very nice. I like that question. The role of the Black woman was the role of freedom and struggle, because Black women were the first ones to learn how to read and write. It was not the Black man, it was the Black woman. The Black women was the first ones to go to school in this country. The Black women were the first ones to get degrees and to sing opera in this country. Now, opera was not a field for Black people. It was white.
Yeah.
We got Marian Anderson, who opened the door for Leontine Price and a whole lot of others. Catherine Battles, and the list goes on. Black women were the backbone of the Black family. and they played a crucial role. And throughout that history, they've been very influential in terms of music, in terms of acting, in terms of sports, and in terms of education, and as we know, politics. Very influential. They've made an impact here. Because black men were looked at as doing the work in the fields. If you educate, as I'm told by my friend Neodoc, if you educate a black woman, you educate a nation.
That's true.
She always tells me that.
That's true.
And so that's how we must give our credence and accolades to our women who are our backbone here.
Very good.
I completely agree with that. That was very informational. Very much so. Moving on from black women, I'd like to speak about our children. Knowing that a lot of the kids nowadays that are in elementary, middle school, high school, a lot of them didn't experience what our ancestors went through in the past, what happened just 50, 60 years ago, or even just say 20, 30, 40 years ago. So how can we make sure that they're being taught the true Black history? And how can we make sure that they're celebrated? And how can we teach them to celebrate Black history?
Well, let me give you a little bit of my experience. I went to a school in Dallas, Texas for my master's degree. And the school is a school that prepares you for ministry. I won't give the name of the school. I can't. I always do. But I felt lonely in my class because we talked about white history and white theology and white preaching, but they didn't think of it as white theology or white preaching or white churches. They just thought of it as norm and universal. And I felt like when I looked at the history book that they were asking us to buy and to do our studies for our degree, there was nothing in the history book on the contributions that Black people made to church growth or to theology. It's like we did not exist. We didn't exist in the history book, we didn't exist on the syllabus, and we didn't exist in the mind of the professor who was teaching the course. This is important. And what they did in the past was, if you had a Black ministry as such, or church, or organization that's trying to do something for the community, they would write you a check, but they had no relationship with you. You know? And so that's what the thing that I got involved in, trying to end that. Create relationships is more important than just writing a check. Because if you create a relationship, then you'll get a check forever. You understand? And relationship goes back and forth, where we're educating each other. And so that was part of the problem that I experienced, and which made me angry. And so when I came through elementary and junior high and high school, when we saw our history books, and I do have those history books today, by the way, I have 4 of them. I kept them on purpose. Because in that history book, it gives you a paragraph on Christianizing the plantation, on, I'm trying to say it the way they said it, Christendom, the slaves, bringing Christianity to evangelizing the slaves. That's all it had. Out of a whole North American history book, a paragraph on bringing Christianity to the slaves. Come on. And then we're worth more than that. And so I think we have to continue to push our schools, whether it's Jefferson County, Douglas County, Adams County, even Denver public schools and the Royal Public School. We have to continue to push our children, or push the teachers and the administrations and staff to see the importance of it. We can't continue to leave us out. And that's one of the reasons why we end up fighting each other and shooting each other, because we don't know who we are. You know, why are we fighting each other? Why are we killing each other? We don't know that we are connected. That must be taught in history. So it's not just, so to me, Kathy, it's not just about talking about racism. I'm not asking the schools to talk about racism within the history books. That's a discussion we can have after we close the history book and talk about equality. So to me, the issue today, as we dig deep more into it, is about equity. It's about equality, and it's about classism. We miss that altogether. It's not always about racism. It's about classism. Who's better than who? Who got more money than who?
Yeah.
That's what it's about. And some of the wealthiest people in this country will tell you they're not racist, and some of them are not. It's about classism. The same thing you experience in Jamaica, same thing you experience in India. You know, we have classism right here in America. It's no different. But I think those are things that need to be taught in our classes. So we get these forms called multiculturalism, diversity, inclusiveness. Those are all academic terms. They don't come down to where we really are. That's how the professor teaches it. That's how the professor sees it. That's how the educator in the university sees it and puts it out there. But it's about injustice, equality, and about classism. That's what it's about, which will lead us, in part, to the issue of racism. And racism, in my opinion, is not about why I don't like you because of the color of your skin. It's about prejudice plus power. Racism is prejudice plus power. I have the power to keep you from coming to my hotel. I have the power to keep you from moving into my neighborhood. I have the power to keep you from coming to my churches. I have the power not to hire you if I don't want to. How many black people and black corporations you know own airplanes, okay, own hotels, you know, to keep you away from moving into that neighborhood or getting on their plane? Black folks don't do that. We can be prejudiced against you. We can be prejudiced against each other. Black folks are not racist against each other. They may have their own biases. They may have their own prejudice, but they're not racist against each other. We need to stop that. That's not true. We are prejudiced towards each other. We're jealous of each other. That's the thing that gets us in trouble. And we have biases, just like anything. But racism has to do with prejudice plus power. So that needs to be taught in our school system. So let me just go on and say one thing. So there's a lot of folks that say, well, I'm not racist just by the fact that you said it. You are. And so in pulling down the strongholds of American education, you have to deal with that old mindset, that old system. It's not teaching our children anything. Not just about their own history, but it's not accountable. And it's not teaching our children what they really need to know to make it in this life, to make it in this world. The system needs to be overhauled. We say the police department, the police system needs to be overhauled. Yes, and so does American education needs to be overhauled.
Well, look, if you ever consider to invite Dr. Malcolm to your space, you better be ready for the brother, because he speaks the truth, he speaks the experience, he speaks the wisdom. And thank you so much for the piece of education. Now, you touched on something that's very important, and that's the heartbeat of the African leadership group. You talk about relationship among black people. You talk about relationship among black community. That leads us to the second part of our conversation, which is breaking barriers and building bridges between the African American and the African immigrant. But before we dive deep into that conversation, I'm a firm believer of paying respect where respect is due. I believe that today, as an African immigrant, if I sit here to be able to do what I'm doing today, because there's a lot of people that have paid the sacrifices to allow me and pave the way for me to do that. And when we talk about those people that who we have to pay respect to, who comes in mind when it comes to you? Those people that led the path and allow us to sit here and do what we're doing today.
Who comes to mind?
Yes.
Well, we always think of Dr. Martin Luther King Jr.
Yes.
Okay, he played a pivotal role. We always think about Malcolm X. I say that King was basically the prophet of the South. Malcolm X in Islamic clothing was the prophet of the North. But then you got Henry Highland Garnett, you got Marcus Garvey, who came from Jamaica, you have Harriet Tubman, you had Sojourner Truth, you had, a host of women, Mary McLeod Bethune. These are the people whose shoulders we stand on today. I couldn't be sitting here either.
That's true.
Without that. And I can't help but think about my uncle, Huey P. Newton, the Black Panthers Party. Liberation, black liberation by any means necessary. That's what he was about. And so there were two sides. There was the American side, which most people accepted, was Dr. King. and there was the non-American side, the radical side, the self-determination side with Malcolm X. But there were two sides. There was never one side. There was never one plight. Well, it was one plight, but never one road to get to that plight. So you had the Malcolm X, and you had the Dr. King. So,
well, you hear it.
And of course, I must say that the Black Panthers Party leaned on the side of Malcolm X. And they were, and let me correct a lot of folks, they were not out there just taunting guns and bullets and fighting with the police. They had a breakfast program, feeding the kids in the mornings. They had shoes and tennis shoes program. They give away free tennis shoes and sneakers. That's what they called it back then. And they taught the Constitution to the community. They had classes on self-esteem and constitutional rights and what our rights were. They helped to pave the way. So it was not just Dr. King's philosophy, there was also the political liberation philosophy as well to put us where we are today.
Well, you've heard it, and just wanted to take the time and the opportunity to pay respect to all these people, all these leaders, and as African immigrant, as Black, we recognize the fact. Yes.
Let me mention one more.
Yes.
I cannot sit here and not mention Shirley Chisholm. Shirley Chisholm, I met her in 1972 or 73. I was in college at the time. She came to my college, the first Black woman to run for president of the United States, the first Black congresswoman from New York. I can't even think of the date, but it was just an honor to meet her. She set the light. She was a beacon. She set the pathway for Black women, not only Black women, but Black men. She was a determined and influential Black woman. Shirley Chisholm, born of Jamaican parents in New York. Great woman. Great woman.
Now, we just joined you as an organization, as a community, to pay respect and salute all these people.
Yes.
Now, I want to take it fast forward to 21st century.
Okay.
And take it here in Denver, Colorado, to recognize some of those leaders in the community that we are in that also has helped me and helped all of us. I'm thinking about Brother Jeff. I'm thinking about Dr. Omar. I'm thinking about all these people, Senator James Coleman. I'm thinking about Senator Rhonda Field. I just want us to take a moment to go through these people that are among us right now, because I'm a firm believer of paying respect to people when they're still alive, recognizing their contribution when they're still alive, not to wait until they're long gone for us to look. So if you just want to go with me on this journey right now with some of those leaders, Black leaders we have in the community,
That's
that we're,
beautiful.
who are those names that come into mind and those people?
Well, I have to mention one. He's dead now, but I have to mention one because he made a great contribution to Denver. The great Dr. Vincent G. Harding.
Tell us a little bit about him.
He was raised in Harlem, New York, but he is the one who wrote the I Have a Dream speech, and he wrote Why I'm Against the War in Vietnam speech for Dr. King. He was King's neighbor, and Dr. Harding was the first president of the Martin Luther King Nonviolent Center in Atlanta, Georgia. He was the advisor for Eyes on the Prize. And he continued to be the eyes and ears and writer of the civil rights movement. That's Dr. Vincent Harding. We can't forget him. And what he's done for us all over the globe, not just in Denver, not just in North America, but all over the globe. Dr. Vincent Harding was one of my mentors here.
Amazing, amazing. And we want to take the time here to present our sincere condolences to Senator James Coleman for the passing of his mother. Brother, we have you in our prayers, we have you in our thought, we love you, and you can count the African Leadership Group as one of your family. Let's talk about Dr. Omar.
But as you mentioned now, Senator James Coleman, we have to mention Pastor Paul Burleson.
Please do, tell us.
Pastor Paul Burleson is the pastor of Friendship Baptist, who just lost his mother on yesterday.
Yes,
so he's in Texas,
yes,
dealing with that situation. But our condolences goes out to Pastor Bob Burleson and Dallas, his wife, and their families as well.
Yes. So
He's a stronghold in our community.
For sure. Let's talk about Dr. Omar.
Okay.
So we, as ALG, we have a strong partnership with the NAACP. And thanks to his leadership and presence to our community, Dr. Omar has always been present.
Yes.
And he started impacting our children while he was a professor at the university teaching. A lot of our young kids, they knew him, and he was still very, very involved. Is there anything that you could share with us about our brother, Dr. Omar, that the community might not be aware or might not know about him?
Great man.
Yes.
He takes after his father. His father was also a professor at the University of California, Long Beach, who headed up a department there. Who's very much involved in the community. So Omar he's walking in the footsteps of his dad, which is great. He's setting the example. Omar is not only an academician, but he's grassroots. He is a prophetic pragmatist who believes in rolling up his sleeves and getting out there with the people.
Yep, he does.
He's done a marvelous job. And he ran for mayor. He did not win, but that did not stop him from serving in our communities. And not just the black community. Omar's out there.
Yep. Hispanic
community, Indian community, the white community. Omar is there, his presence. And that's what makes a difference. I don't care who you are. If you don't have a presence in the community, then you
non-existent.
There you go.
Yeah,
non-existent. I like that.
Non-existent.
So Omar is my man. Making great.
Yeah, we love him. And let's talk about Brother Jeff.
Oh my God.
He's doing amazing things out there, and he welcomed us to his platform anytime we wish to be there.
Yes.
And to mention also, he's married to a sister from Ethiopia as well. We salute you, Brother Jeff, and we respect you, and thank you so much for your contribution and the work that you continue to do. But I know you know the man. You work with the man. Could you share a little bit with us about your experience and working and what he's doing out there for the community as well?
He's a giant. He is a towering figure in our community who has brought a lot of hope to our people. He has our people at his fingertips. He can call them, they'll answer the phone. He can send out an email, they'll show up. Brother Jeff is like the mayor of 5 Points.
That's true.
He and I worked together in 2002, 2003 on a big grant from the Colorado Department of Public Health and Environment on HIV, proactive. He has a heart for our community. He used to be a rapper. You know that, right?
I didn't know that.
Brother Jeff was a rapper doing his thing, And I think if we have a real grassroots politician, it would be him.
That's true.
But he's not interested in that bureaucratic administration. He's not interested in that. He's interested in being where the people are. That's what he's about. The people.
Does it well.
Brother Jeff is both Muslim, I know you're going to get me for saying this, and he's both Christian. He's more Christian than those who call themselves Christian. Believe me. He knows the Quran in Arabic, and he knows the Bible.
Very well educated.
And he's a very well educated man. He's my friend. He's my brother, and I love him very dearly.
Thank you so much for sharing with us. Let's talk about the Black Art Festival and talk about Juneteenth. Because honestly, as a community, those are the foundation and the organization that's been here doing this work way before the African Leadership Group. And today, again, if we are in this space doing what we do, it's thanks to the leadership and the work that they've been done. Black Art Festival has been around for many years.
That's right.
And bringing the African culture, the Pan-Africanism you talk about. So share with us your experience and the work and a little bit about the Black Art Festival movement and what they've been doing year in and year out.
I know I moved here in '94, and I knew that we had a great mayor at the time, Mayor Wellington Webb, and he made it intentional to support the Juneteenth and the Black Arts Festival. He provided finances so it can carry on. And in the later years, of course, there was not much money left to do that with, but his heart was there. And so thinking about what you're saying to me, my friend, again, Neil Powell says, the best way for African leadership and African people to be involved in the Black community in America is through alliances.
That's true.
And when you say Juneteenth, we need to align. That's one of the alliances that we need to continue to work with. That's the Black Art Festivals. That's one of the alliances that we need to continue to work with, because that's African American. But nothing stopping the African community from being a part of it.
That's true.
Because that's our roots.
Yep.
And I think it would be even greater if it's not just African American, but it is African.
That's true.
I mean, that's what it's about.
Yes.
I mean, that's our roots.
True.
Right? That's where we come from. It's our ancestral roots. So I'm saying it can't be just about African Americans. It has to be about Africans and African Americans together. That's the alliance that will make the Black Art Festival stronger. So over the years, they bring out the vendors, the food, the artwork, the clothing, and the choirs come and sing. And this is beautiful because this gives us an opportunity to display who we are, what we're about, and where we come from. And so everyone has been coming to Juneteenth into Black. It's not just Black folks anymore.
Yep.
Folks are coming from Highlands Ranch, Littleton, Arvada, coming all the way down.
That's true.
I'm talking about lawyers and doctors and politicians are coming to see what Black folks are doing and what they're about. So it's an opportunity for us to work together and to just put Black people on display for the positive things that we do in Denver, Colorado.
Amazing. Again, the African Leadership Group weekly show, and as you can see, we have an amazing guest and wisdom and lecturer. I mean, it's just been amazing on the knowledge that's been shared on this platform, and talking about and recognizing all those people that have paved the way for us to be here, and we are very grateful and thankful to the leadership. Kathy, as a young African born and raised here, that probably raised in an African household with the African culture. And I know when you go out, you have to be that American and embrace that American culture. How has it been for you navigating the two worlds, being this person at home and the total different person outside?
I'd most definitely say it was a journey. It wasn't easy at all. It was a struggle trying to figure out who I was, how to identify myself. At home, I was not myself. Outside of school, outside of the house, at school, I wasn't myself. It was always a situation of trying to satisfy whoever I was around. And I did live back home for some time, and I'm from Guinea, Conakry, as mentioned before. Being back home is where I felt more at ease because I was around everybody who was the same. We speak the same languages, the same culture, the same religion, so I felt at peace somewhat. But when I came back here for high school, I went back to zero. I did not know where to go from there. I found this new love for this new identity that I discovered, but I was afraid to share it because I was so afraid of judgment. The judgment that I experienced when I was in elementary school, I was afraid to share that. I didn't know if it was okay. Because anytime I did, I was mocked for it. I was judged for it. It just wasn't deemed acceptable. So it wasn't until getting to college that I felt more comfortable in my skin because I had others who went through the same struggle as I did, who were born and raised here, who had immigrant parents, who had to deal with the same struggles of acting different within their home and taking on another identity as well when they're outside of their home. So it was most definitely a journey, that's for sure.
Wow.
Yeah. So now, as we celebrate Black History Month and hearing you share your journey and your experience, what message would you have for the African immigrant parents that are raising kids similar to you? And also, what message do you have for those kids that went through the same journey as we celebrate Black History Month?
Thanks. Respect to all my African parents, first off. My first advice most definitely would be to know how much of a struggle it is to grow up in two cultures. It's such a struggle. And just as an African child, we try our hardest to make our parents proud, and feel comfortable at the same time. So I would love for our African parents to realize that we're going through this struggle. We're trying to figure out who we are. We're trying to figure out what's okay and what's not okay. To be open-minded, to ask them questions, to when they see them from coming from school, if they've gone through a struggle, if somebody made fun of them, if they were bullied or something like that, to recognize that and to empower them and teach them how important it is to know where they're from, their culture, their language, their background, how important and how unique it is. For our children, especially for those who are in elementary, middle school, and high school, it is a struggle, but stand up for yourselves. Nobody else is going to do it for you. Recognize that not many around you are like you, but it's better to be unique than to be like everybody else, in my perspective. So, yeah, you'll make it through and just keep going.
I like that.
Well, I hope that some of the parents, like Professor Majama, just heard what you said, because I hear what his kids will tell me about him, and I'm victim of that also as an African immigrant parents. But thank you so much, because this is very important. Because as African parents, we have a tendency to want to raise our kid the same exact way we were raised back home. Reality are different, environment are different. Now, Dr. Malcolm, back to you. Breaking barriers, building bridges between the Black community and the African immigrant is really, really deep into the African leadership group. And we just launched this movement. I want to hear from you, what has been your experience as a Black man dealing with the African immigrant community? Bad or good, just let's talk about it and let's be very candid about it, because that's the goal of the show, to bring the experience that people have witnessed and been through into the community so we can discuss about it. But at the end, to come up with solution and how can we make it better. How has it been for you? Because I know you are engaged in the South Sudanese community, into the Ethiopian community. You are engaged with most African immigrant community. How has been your experience dealing with all those communities?
Before I go there, let me make a comment on what Kathy said. I want you to know that that's the experience that we have had as African Americans living in America, being dominated by the white culture. We were living a double life as well. You live one way around your people, and you live another way around white people. So we were both going back and forth as well as African Americans in this country because of that. And this, like Du Bois says, he says a double consciousness. He says it is one side is the Negro, one side is American, having to deal with this dog strength of being pulled back and forth. And that's what we had to deal with. It may seem like you have a psychic issue or problem, but it's not. It's how we are cast into this system in America. I wanted to say that to you as well. And in a way, I'm glad to hear you articulate that.
Yeah.
Because that resonates with African living in America as well.
And that's a great point that you make, and relating to the breaking barriers, that's most definitely something that I feel like both communities can most definitely bond on, because I never thought about it from that African American perspective either. That's interesting.
So my experience, I've been working with Mahamadou. I believe he's a relative of yours.
Yes, from Senegal.
And that was my first challenge, along with Brother Mac, diving into a country I knew nothing about, Senegal. Right?
Yes, Senegal, yes.
Senegal. And just this heart for the people and the children that I have a burden for, that when I was approached by my good friend and student, Van Johnson, who passed away, he brought me to the table and said, hey, I want you to be part of what we're doing in synagogue. So we put together each year a fundraiser. We raise sometimes 25,000, sometimes 50,000 to buy school books, to buy uniforms, to pay for education, and it was something else. Oh, school supplies, right? School supplies. And we would used to ship them over there. But then we decided that we would take the money over there and buy it over there, put the money back into the culture. And so that was my my entrance into the African community was through African celebration, African heritage celebration. We did it for 11 years. And I was chairman of the board for 7 years. And so that was a wild experience for me. I never went to synagogue. I had many opportunities to go. I have lived in South Africa. Just to let you know, I have been on the planet,
Yes.
on the mother planet. But I've never been to synagogue, but I've had many opportunities to go to synagogue and see. But when they bring the pictures back and the stories are back, it just does something to my heart that we're making a difference. 3 villages, 9 schools. And that was because of the murder of Omar Jah.
Yes.
And so we continue to do that even to this day. So that was my interest. And then through that, I began to meet other African people, you know. And then through African Chamber, Niquita and I were at a meeting with, at that time, it was Governor Hickenlooper. And there was over 100 Africans from different countries. And a white guy came up to us and says, I'm going to start an African Chamber. Well, Representative Niquita Ricks and I looked at each other and we said, no, you're not. We're going to start it. And so we decided that we would forge that because that was important for African Chamber to be started by African people. And so, because we understood the needs. And so we did that in 2014, 2015, when it began to launch itself. And then she ran for office and we lost momentum and we came back again. So that was my interest. And through that was through the census and through the 2020 census, we got deep into the African community. You know, almost every African country that is in Colorado, we were part of. And that included the Afghans as well. So I have not experienced any real negativeness from the African community in Colorado. Really haven't. I've worked with them, they work with me, and we just talk about what we need to talk about and do business and talk about history, talk about what our goals and objectives are and what we want to do. But I have not personally experienced any negativeness from any African community since I've been here.
So when we talk about bringing the two communities together, what do you think, like, there is connection between the two communities as we speak right now? Or do you think there's a lack of understanding? Do you think there's some prejudice from both communities? If so, what would be your recommendation when it comes to overcoming those challenges?
There are prejudice from both communities. That's real. And I think, let me say this. Exactly what you are doing now is what needs to continue to happen. The work that you are doing, you have what we call the Afri Impact.
Yes.
You have the holding seminars and discussions, building bridges. Recently, the Leadership Africa 9-month-long class that Black folks in America need to go to. You know, exactly what you're doing right now. You have reached out. Your tentacles have gone. Your antennas have gone out. NAACP, Colorado Black Roundtable, Colorado Black Women for Political Action. I mean, you're out there making waves, letting people know that we're in Colorado, we exist too, and we want to be part of what you're doing. That's what you've been doing, okay? And so you have raised the consciousness of Black Americans to remember who they are and where they come from, and to just say, what can I do to make a contribution? Look at what Papa's doing. Why does it take an African to come over here and to bring African Americans and African peoples to come together? That's what it takes. Exactly what you're doing. Because if African Americans had begun to do it, they would not be taken serious, or it would last for a while and not last the distance that needs to go, the marathon run, But here we have, many of the contributions and inventions were from African people who came to America. You hear me? Mm-hmm. It's not just African Americans, Africans that came to America. We can talk about Marcus Garvey from Jamaica, okay? And so we can talk about that. Kwame Nkrumah came here and went to African American College in Pennsylvania. Lincoln University made a difference. Then he started sending his people to Lincoln University in Pennsylvania, And so that's that connectedness that we need to have, continuing, not just one or two, but a continuation of it, what you're doing, to break down those barriers, to break down those stereotypes and misunderstandings. This is what we need on both sides of the fence.
Yeah. Well, talking about the work of the African Leadership Group and the work we're doing, yes. And I say this all the time, even though I'm the one that people get to hear from me or my face, I'm telling you that I have people that are way smarter than me on the back scene doing this work. I'm thinking about Usman Ba, I'm thinking about Jason Golden, I'm thinking about Laurie, I'm thinking about Alan. The list goes on and on. I'm just grateful to all of you and for your leadership. But most importantly, those community members that are part of the African Leadership Group family. Like you said, we are building antennas, and all this work is possible today because of all those people that identify themselves as members of the family. And we wouldn't exist without you. I'm thinking about Professor Majama. He's involved, the work that he does with the public speaking class. I'm thinking about all those people that are involved in the 13 committees.
Yes.
From home ownership, from public speaking class, from education, from women empowerment. All these works are becoming a reality because of your involvement. And we are very, very grateful. Now, Kathy, I'm going to come to you. And I got to ask this question because I know you knew about the African Leadership Group recently, and you get involved recently and start working at ALG. What has been the experience for you getting involved in an organization like ALG and to get to witness firsthand the work of the African Leadership Group and how busy we are?
That's a loaded question. When I was hired on, I was told to handle Papa's calendar. He's a busy man. I'll most definitely tell you that. It's a hefty job, but I was welcomed with open arms.
Yes.
And I've already said it before, but this is a job that is unlike any other. ALG is a place that I feel like I've always seen myself in. Just in college, I went to the University of Colorado, Denver, and I was actually a part of the on-campus organization called African Student Union, and I was co-president. And a lot of what we did over there is like times 10 here at ALG. And I enjoyed my time with ASU. I made sure that we reached the limits, beyond the limits, as a matter of fact, and we were well recognized on that campus. So it's like seeing ALG is, for me, seeing that dream that I had for ASU come true with outside of school. So my time here so far, I've really enjoyed it. I see myself going far within ALG. I see what good is doing for the African community, for the African American community, and the other communities within Colorado. And I haven't seen one like it. So I'm very grateful to be a part of ALG. I'm hoping to make as much of a change that the other team members have made here as well. So it's been great so far.
Well, it's been an amazing addition to have you part of the family. Now, Dr. Malcolm, I want to ask, because part of the breaking barriers, we had a project and we were doing survey question. And I was hoping with some of the questions that we were asking, what I was hoping was we'll have something that we will have in common, something that will bring us together. And we had the first question, and simple one, was, how do you identify yourself? And there we had Black, we had African Immigrant, African American, and we had others. And I found that just that simple question divided us even more. Because when I handed the survey to some of the people that was from Jamaica, or from the Caribbean, they were offended because we did not list Caribbean. So some people said, I'm not an African, I'm not an African American, so could you help me just maybe go through the process, first of all, to answer that question yourself? How do you identify yourself? And when we talk about all being black, what do we have in common then, if we cannot answer that question the same way?
I am a Pan-Africanist in the American grain.
Oh, yeah.
Now, let me go a little deeper. I am an American black. I'm not an adjective American. I'm not an African American. I'm not a black American. I'm an American black. When I was in France, I saw a young black man with a derby on, and I ran up to him and said, Sir, what do you call yourself? And he didn't know who I was. He was just going to the train. And he says, what do you mean? I says, well, I'm from America, and I'm considered a black American or African American. What do you consider yourself? He says, I'm European. When I was in London, I saw another black man, and I ran up to him and touched him on his arm, and he didn't know who I was. And I'm asking him, what do you call yourself here? And he says, what do you mean? And I explained to him that I'm from America, and I'm considered an African American or black American. He says, I'm British. He did not say he was Afro-British. He did not say he was Afro-Caribbean or a black Frenchman or a black British. He said he was British. And that helped me to understand that we who were born here, this is our country. We built this country. We are Americans. We are American blacks of African descent. And that's how I identify myself. Okay? I'm not an adjective. There's no such thing as Asian American or Hispanic American or Latino American. No, we are American Hispanics, American Asians, American blacks. That's who we are in this country.
All right. You ask, you shall receive. So that's exactly right. So we're getting to the tail end of the show, and obviously this conversation could go on and on and on. And
but I want to talk about some projects that we can do.
Please do. And that was my last question. Oh. What are your wishes for the two communities going forward and tied to the project, and throw in your closing remarks there?
So I think that as two nations in one, we need to create projects that we can work together that will bring us better understanding, learning from each other, and actually getting closer. We need projects that we can work on together. I think another project is, this is a big one. I'm going to take a stab at it.
Please do.
We need to be involved in rebuilding Africa. Because I believe that Africa is weak in terms of its political standing, economic standing, socially disorganized, and culturally and spiritually confused. And I think that we, as the former ambassador, she's calling for the diaspora. She says there are more African doctors in New York than there is in all of Africa. I don't know that. I'm going by what she says. And I think African Americans and Africans got a big task ahead of them. We have to decolonize ourselves from the American dream. We have to decolonize ourselves from the French and the Belgians and the British. It has not happened yet. Psychologically, it has not happened. Economically, it has not happened. We are experiencing, as the Africans have, physical death, psychological death, social death, and economic death. That's what we are experiencing. And the only way we're going to break away from that is we come together and rebuild our motherland. Brother, you have to take us to Africa. You have to take us to your place where you were born so we can meet your family, see where you were born, the house you were born in, or the hospital you was born in. We need to go there. And that's where the learning begins for us. That's where our eyes begin to open. you know, and to go to the island in which they begin to take the Africans and put them on those slave ships and bring them to a new world. We need to see that for ourselves. We need to have a tour every year where African Americans are going to Africa. Not just to Ghana, but we can begin with Senegal because that's where you're from and because you're the bridge builder here. That's one project. The other one is building an alliance with each other, as we spoke earlier. Building an alliance. And then the other one, the alliance is organizations, it's businesses, it's schools, it's educational, it's cultural classes. We need cultural classes right here at African Leadership for African Americans. Your classes are not just for Africans, they got to be for African Americans too. We need to recruit more African Americans like you've been doing, I've seen it with my own eyes, into the Leadership Africa, not just Africans. We need to recruit Africans, Americans into the public speaking course, not just Africans. We need to be there together in those cultural classes, summer cultural classes. You ever heard of that before?
No.
African Leadership can have summer cultural classes where we come together in a week long out in the mountains somewhere where there's nobody to interrupt us. We're out there learning about African culture and African American culture together in the mountains. Languages, what they stand for, what the names stand for. And we need to do a Martin Luther King program together. Not just our African American Martin Luther King program where you invite a couple of Jews and a couple of whites and a couple of people from other religions. No, we need to have Africans and African Americans do a full-blown, statewide Martin Luther King program every year. You hear what I'm saying?
I hear you.
That's what it's about.
I hear you. Yes.
And so, and the after-school program, I know you have one now, but think about ALG doing a STEM program or a STEAM program right here. Science, technology, math, and what's the other? Engineering. I did it wrong, but STEM.
Yes.
Or STEAM, which has art.
Yep.
STEAM, arts and culture. African leadership must lead that for our people. We must lead that for our kids. You know, the pastors are doing great work. I talk to a lot of pastors, but they're not doing that kind of work that you're doing. Their work is more spiritual. Okay? And then last but not least, let me just move my thing out of the way. Here's a big one for you and for your board. Maybe African leadership could be involved in creating a whole new charter school. A charter school where African Americans and Africans can come together and learn together in the same classroom. Some of our kids, that's where it begins. It begins with our kids. Huh? It begins with our kids. We can't wait till they get to high school. We got to begin with them as little kids in the same classroom every day. African and African Americans. Huh? And that will help to build unity, empowerment, self-esteem, and the unstoppable bridge, brother, that you're building. Unstoppable. That's what we need. And thank you so much for the encouragement that you have given to the African Americans to come on board and to do what you're doing, to build those bridges. Thank you.
Well, Professor, I hope that this video will be whatever, edit and get it on our YouTube page right away. We got the message, and we embrace the challenges, and we welcome them. And part of the thing that you mentioned, ALG is already looking into it. And the other thing, we're going to start looking into it. Now, the youngsters we have there, I need you. Because this work, I can't do it by myself. And you hear it live. Dr. Malcolm just challenged us. But as always said, I cannot do this by myself. I need every single wisdom, every single strength. Hands out there, we welcome your involvement, both from the Black community and the African immigrant community. Dr. Malcolm, it's truly, truly an honor, because I knew you had so much, and we haven't had a chance to have you on the platform where the entire community get to hear from you. I expected this because you and I, we spend a lot of time, but it's truly an honor for me to officially introduce you to the community, and they get to hear from you. So truly, truly an honor. So, Karen, how has it been? You know, your last word of wisdom to everybody, to everything that you've been hearing, and also they're going to be having you hosting this show. That's right. Going forward.
Well, I don't think that there's much to say after what our guest has said. It's been mind-blowing. And that challenge, I know Papa's gonna take you on it. That means more work for us. Miss Lori, we're gonna get ready, okay? But no, this has been a very, very amazing conversation. And I know that I'm gonna do my part by starting this conversation with just my friends outside of school, outside of work. I enjoy having these type of conversations. So thank you so much for the information that you fed my brain today. It was very amazing. I appreciate it so much. But yes, as Papa said, I'm going to be taking over the show. I'm going to fire him soon as well. So yeah, look forward to seeing me more often.
Okay. All right. Well, thank you. Yes.
I have
yes.
one more challenge.
Oh, yeah. Okay, Dr. Malcolm.
You and I have talked about this before, and I just want to put it out there. That's basically what I'm doing.
Please do.
We need an African CDFI.
Yes.
Community Development Financial Institution.
Yes.
Because then we can come to you and borrow the money to build our businesses, to expand, and to create new businesses. That's what a CDFI does.
Yes.
We don't have to go to the banks and credit unions that keep turning us down. We can just come to African leadership.
Yes.
And get that micro loan.
Well, I'm already in conversation with our brother Marvin Earl from OEDIT, from the governor's office too. We already engaged into that conversation. So I want to thank all our followers for joining us this morning. Now it's afternoon, but thank you so much. I want to thank our technician in the house, Professor Majama and Usman Bar. And Professor, you have the challenge to get this video right now as soon as possible on our YouTube page for people to really follow up on this conversation because they're asking. But we want to thank you, and we'll be back with you next Monday at 11:30. Thank you so much, and have an amazing week. Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you for having me.
Is it over now?
Yes, it is.
Oh, I just have something to add.